we'll put a pin in it because wow, look at this class act.
Don Cherry's got nothing on that jacket.
Look,
Thank you guys.
That's the wrong button. That's the right button. Welcome to the show, Donnie Harris Jr.
How's it going, guys?
Well, we're just it's going. First show of 2022. We've already driven our only fan away because we were too, what did he say? Negative. We were too negative. But hey.
Oh, you said something he didn't agree with. Oh my gosh.
That's what happens, Donnie. That's what we do. People don't like what we say.
He just drained that bottle. Look at that.
I missed
It's like Cole Bohannon showed up.
Oh, yes. Cole Bohannon, CB attitude.
CB. Speaking of Cole Bohannon, I've heard, are you his personal elf?
No, Cole Bohannon can't afford my services to be his personal advocate. And he's going to need to win a few more matches before he gets up to pay for me to work for him.
That's true.
But great competitor. Always has something to say and backs it up in the ring. So you have to give him that.
For those people that don't know, Donnie Harris Jr., the voice of not only CCW down in Florida, but a lot of the other promotions in Florida, which I don't know any of those names. I'm hoping you can help me with those. I do know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Spinebuster promotion, you would consider your home promotion?
Yes, Spinebuster Championship Wrestling out of Valdosta, Georgia.
Okay.
Is one of the companies that I work for. When COVID happened, they've been on kind of a hiatus.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they're the closest to my home. Well, I live in Florida, but I'm like not too far from the state line, so geographically, they are the closest promotion to me.
I'll tell you what, Donnie, I'm terrible with geography. I think I just learned that Georgia is the state above Florida.
Yep.
Is that correct? Wow.
Yeah, Georgia and Alabama are right above us.
Oh, Alabama. Shout out to D-Rod. D-Rod, a great wrestling fan from Alabama. The only one, from what I have learned. The only one with any knowledge. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I digress. I see you're also wearing a loud suit tonight. Something I have grown to know you for. What goes into selecting your jackets?
A lot of people ask me that question, and it's real simple. I wait for my paycheck. I get online. I find something that I like. I buy it, and I wait for that Amazon box to get to my door. That's really about all the thought that goes into it.
Do you like colors? Do you string? Okay, you have a big show. What was that? Wrestle Bash. Do you incorporate colors? Do you say, oh, Wrestle Bash, the theme, the scheme for these colors are this, and do you placate off of that?
No, I never really color coordinate with the event I'm going to. I mean, professional wrestling by its very nature is a very colorful business. So I feel like, just so long as I have something that fits the occasion and that it looks flashy, then that's all that matters. So, I don't put that much thought press into it. I do have certain jackets and certain neckties that I wear for like really special occasions, like if it's a 1-year anniversary or a 2-year anniversary. I have my special occasion necktie, which, I mean, if you look through my social media, you can see me wearing it a handful of times. But for the most part, I mean, I just go through my closet. I think I'll wear this one, throw it in the suitcase, and head to the venue.
Speaking of Cole Bohannon, he is here in the chat and says that your jackets are made of great toilet paper. Or make, I'm sorry, I stepped on my own words. Make for great toilet paper.
Yes. Well, Cole Bohannon always has something to say.
Always.
What you gonna do? Cole Bohannon, he likes to brag about doing one show for Dory Funk. I'm actually a student of Dory Funk Jr.'s. I spent the first 8 months of my career working for the man.
Interesting. At the Funkin' Dojo, I would presume.
Yes. Dory is the greatest human being, one of the greatest human beings I ever met in my life. That's not my mom, my dad, or my stepfather. Just you meet him and automatically you kind of think of him as a third grandpa, if you will. Just a class act. I don't have I could spend the whole rest of this podcast talking about how nice Dory Funk Jr. is.
So this is interesting to me. So you train at Dory Funk's place. You're a ring announcer, interviewer, a Mean Gene type of guy. That's the vibe I get. Big Mean Gene fan myself. What, like, how does that training work? Do you go in and say, oh, Mr. Funk, I want to be an announcer. I want to be a ref. Do you take bumps? How does the training differ, or does it?
For me, it was just the first night that I worked with them, and I think the clips are up on YouTube somewhere. They just needed a ring announcer, and I hadn't quite figured out what I wanted to do in the wrestling business. I have a saying: you want to be a wrestler, or you want to be in the wrestling business. I'm 5'1", 120 pounds. Being a wrestler probably isn't the best option for me. And the crowd just kind of liked my voice, and I'm just like, oh, I kind of like this ring announcer thing. So I just took it from there.
Interesting. And so we'll get back to that. You take the training from there. We'll get back to your announcing, and you do a lot of interviews. But I want you to inform me how Mike Awesome versus, I believe his name is Tanaka, from the summer of 2000, how that blew your mind, opened you up to this great world of wrestling.
Oh, yes. Okay, so you've been watching some of my old interviews.
Yeah, I prepped.
I'm having to go back to, summer of 2000. It might have been a little bit before, but my cousin had videotapes, and he'd record the ECW shows, and I knew what wrestling was, but I hadn't become a fan. So he plays that tape for me. And you've got, if I memory serves, Mike Awesome is in the back. The belt's over his shoulder, and he's jacked to the gills. He's got the mullet flapping behind him. And he looks into the camera, and he just talks about how he's going to powerbomb Masato Tanaka through a table. And I had just never seen that before. And just something in it just clicked for me. And, you watch the match, and he followed through, and I was hooked ever since. And then, I started watching WWE, and my love for wrestling just kind of took over from there, and I've been a fan ever since.
So, and I can totally relate with that. I'm a little older, but I get it. I get what pulls you in. But when did Donnie Harris Jr. get the actual bug, the itch for the business, to then seek out the Funkin' Dojo?
It was end of 2017. I was pretty much done being a wrestling fan. I was burnt out. I was like, you know what? Wrestling always changes. Everything changes. And I was just like, the product really just isn't for me anymore. And anyways, but I started hearing about how great NXT was. I'd listened to podcasts and all that. And I watched, I believe the match was Johnny Gargano versus Andrade Cien Almas. Yep. And the best way I can describe it, and you'd understand this, I felt it again. Mm-hmm. That feeling, that excitement, that, oh my God. And it just lit the fire up under me. And I was at a place in my life financially where I had a steady job, had a steady paycheck, had a place to live. I was like, okay, now's the time for me to pursue this dream because all my real world stuff is steady, is taken care of. So I just looked around, and Dory Funk's dojo, it was the closest school to me geographically. It was only about 60 miles from my house. So I emailed him, and they, I went in, paid my tuition, and took off from there. In June of 2018, I think that was the date, somewhere in there.
What resonates the most with you from, you said he was like a third grandpa, nicest guy around. What resonates? Can you pick one thing that resonates the most with you?
Not any one particular thing. I mean, he just always had little. I mean, being that I was a ring announcer, he was mainly talking to the wrestlers, but we would exchange conversations now and then. He always emphasized respect. That was a big thing for Dory Funk Jr. and everybody he taught. Just respect for the business, respect for each other. That was something that he constantly tried to instill us. Always shake a man's hand, always look him in the eye. Really stuff that any good father would tell his son. Stuff that my father and my stepfather both told me. But he would just reaffirm that. Just be respectful, be helpful. Earn your paycheck.
Pay your dues.
Exactly.
Speaking of people that are not respectful, Cole Bohannon is demanding we ask you how tall you are again.
I'm 5'1".
5'1", knee high to Cole Bohannon's ankles, I guess, or something like that. So okay, so you fall in love with wrestling. You're in the right place. You seek out Dory Funk Jr. Great school, exactly what you should be doing. But that isn't where your announcing journey begins. So let us know where it began and why you told everybody to take off their garments.
Oh God, yes. So my first gig actually wasn't in pro wrestling. My first gig was a PA announcer for my local college. PA announcer is similar to a ring announcer. Right. You introduce the teams, say when the home team scores and stuff like that. But yes, my first night there, and the athletic director has really put in a good word for me. The president of the college is there, and they hand me a script, and it says, remove head garments. And I'm all nervous, so I start reading from the script, and I say, ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your garments for the playing of our national anthem. And yeah, I turned about as red as one of my jackets. Luckily, the crowd just kind of laughed it off, and we went on with playing the national anthem, and nothing else came of it. But just in that moment, I was like, well, it's been all of 30 minutes, and this career is already over. Nice run. But luckily, they were all of good humor, and I've been with the college now for 4 years. Started out as a volunteer. They put me on the payroll as their official PA announcer, and nice. Love working for them.
I'm going to get back to the wrestling announcing and all that, but I'm thinking of I played basketball. I'm thinking of the PA announcers. What goes are the preparing? Is the prep work the same? I mean, you're pulling people in. You're a pitch man. You're a salesman. You want to get them in. How is the preparation for a basketball PA guy and a ring announcer?
I use the same inflections, the same tone, but it's a little bit easier PA announcing than ring announcing in my experience. And that, I don't have to stand in the center of a ring. Really, you just kind of go in, you make sure you have your bottle of water to keep your throat dry. They'll usually have a script with the sponsors, the starting lineups. And, you just kind of sit down and you go through it, make sure. The biggest thing is, just make sure that you say all the names correctly. Because, down here in Florida, we have a lot of foreign students, and some of them have rather unique names. So the biggest thing for me is, just going to the coaches, make sure we have the right starting lineup, and making sure I have the proper enunciations for the visiting team and for our home team.
Yeah. I don't think I could do that because I can't read very well. But you get the height and the weight and everything, right? For the basketball players.
For a basketball player, it usually goes like their number, which position they're playing, right. Center, point guard, shoot guard, where they're from, and their height.
Okay, yeah.
And then
weight's probably not on there. Back to the wrestling. When I was preparing for you. You give me how do I want to put this? You give me a Howard Finkel, Mean Gene, Harvey Wimpleman vibe. That's the vibe I get. I would take them all and I would squish them together, and I would get Donnie Harris Jr. That's how I come up with how I can relate with you. Did any of those guys? Did any of them inspire you? Did you look to any of them? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. To answer your question, it's kind of funny. I grew up in the late Attitude Era, early Ruthless Aggression era, but the era of wrestling that I truly loved was the era that I didn't grow up on, the 80s.
Interesting.
And and like watching, because you'd rent the videos from VHS videos from Blockbuster, if anybody remembers that.
Right.
And I'd watch the old videos of Hulk Hogan, and there's little Mean Gene Okerlund sitting there holding the mic. And even back then, in my mind, I'm like, well, I can't be a wrestler, but I bet I could do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mean Gene was a big influence on me, even though, he had kind of come before me. Another man that I really looked up to at the time, an announcer that I really looked up to, maybe I don't so much copy his style, but he inspired me, was Joey Styles.
Very underrated.
Yes. I wouldn't say my commentary style is like his, I don't think, but just certain things, certain little nuances that he did, I really liked. I think his partnership with Joel Gertner was great, but again, that was just what I was exposed to because I caught the tail end of ECW. I didn't get to see a lot of their glory days because I was way too young. Mama wasn't going to have me watching that.
Did you go back and ever watch any of that stuff?
So what now?
Did you go back and ever watch any of that stuff?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
ECW was ahead. You could say it was ahead of its time, or it was of its time. Just I guess depending on who you ask. But yeah, I love the old ECW stuff. There's a lot of old wrestling that I like. I like watching old Smoky Mountain videos that Jim Cornette's promotion from the early '90s.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm reading books on the history of Memphis Championship Wrestling way back in the '70s. A lot of cool things happened back then. It was I like researching the history as much as I like finding out what's going on right now as far as wrestling goes.
What was that? Say that again.
I said I like researching the history of pro wrestling as much as I like, keeping up with what's going on now.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good shit. Howard Finkel. I think every announcer I've ever spoken to has a place in their heart set aside for Howard Finkel. Does he have that place in your heart as well?
Oh, of course, yes. How do you not?
Yeah, exactly.
The man's voice was just transcendent. I'd almost say I don't know what God sounds like, but if I would imagine God might sound like Michael Buffer or Howard Finkel. If I did know what God sounded like. Yes, Howard Finkel has a special place in my heart. There are a lot of ring announcers that I look to for inspirations. Justin Roberts, who was kind of the voice of my wrestling childhood. I was a big fan of his work and how he said things like The Undertaker or John Cena. I do a bad Justin Roberts impression. But yeah, I've looked to every ring announcer I can to try to get inspiration. Okay, he did it that way. Maybe I can take a bit of that and change it just a little. A lot of them have a special place in my hearts. But long-winded answer, I know. But yes, Howard Finkel definitely. I was very sad when he passed on. But it hurts every time we lose a legend in the wrestling business.
For sure. And we've talked about a lot of these legends and inspirations and people that you look up to. But how does Donnie Harris take those inspirations and take them and absorb them and set himself apart? Because that's what ultimately you want to do. That you want to take the best aspects of the people you look up to, absorb them, make them your own. So how are you setting yourself apart?
Oh, good question. It's something I just kind of do. I guess the best way I could put it was just just intuitively. I listen to how other ring announcers say names, how they put inflections on things, and when I'm in the ring, I'm just like, okay, maybe I need to do it this way or I need to do it that way. Um, it's it's hard to put into words.
Right.
I mean, obviously one of the ways I set myself apart is my wardrobe. Everybody remembers who I am, even if they can't always remember my name. That's something that Mikey Whipwreck, just tying back to ECW, I went to a seminar him and Jerry Lynn did, and that was one thing him and Jerry Lynn really instilled in that seminar was setting yourself apart. So I'm that flashy salesman. I'm that billboard sign that grabs people's attention, and now that I have their attention, I tell them about the cool product I have to sell, which is pro wrestling action. And that's the way that I try to set myself apart.
Spectacular, and that's what you should do. You should absorb everything that you can, and set yourself apart. Now, before we get to Stampede, which you got coming up, I have to ask you. Let me see. Hopefully I have my information correct. Did you? How do I say this nicely? Did you almost die in a car accident? And do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I don't mind talking about that. Yes, March of last year, I was doing a show in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'd already worked a 40-hour shift at my regular job, or 40 hours at my regular job. This was on a Friday. I did a show in Daytona Beach, Florida, which is on one side of the state, and I had a show Saturday in Pensacola, Florida, which is on the other side of the state. And my plan was to get back to my hometown, sleep for a few hours, and then head on to Pensacola. I was about 3 miles from my house, fell asleep behind the wheel.
No. Yep.
Excuse me, and crashed into a tree.
Yeah. I
broke both my tibia and fibia and wound up losing 40 centimeters of my small intestine.
Damn.
It was pretty traumatic.
I can imagine.
I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. I had a feeding tube put down my nose. I had 3 or 4, 5. I think I had 3 surgeries over the course of that 2 weeks. The thing that probably hurt the most was when I was laying. It's kind of freaky. I'm laying in bed and I come out of anesthesia, and I feel around on my stomach, and there's a ball on my stomach, and the doctors tell me where your organs were so swollen, we've cut you open, and we have this ball on your stomach, and we're letting your organs are like unswelling.
Gotcha.
So that was a pretty freaky thing. The thing that hurt the most was, just my mother coming in, and she just kind of sees her son laying there. I'm an only child, and just the fear and all that in her eyes at the time. I mean, that hurt worse than any of the procedures. So I was being dumb. Don't drive drowsy. Yeah. That's the biggest takeaway. I say this to every wrestler or worker in this industry: ride together. Yeah. Stop. Take a power nap at that rest stop. Don't try to power through it. Avoid the mistake that I made, because had the tree moved just any little bit, I wouldn't be here talking to you today.
Yeah.
Just thank God I got through that. So I mean, I don't mind talking about it. If it helps someone else not go through that, then at least some good came out of it.
I'll piggyback on that for a bit. When I was in 9th grade, which was a long, long time ago, my older sister, the same thing happened to her. She was coming back from work. She was drowsy. She veered over into the other lane and went right under the first set of wheels of a Mack truck. I believe it was Coca-Cola. Right under the first set of wheels, hit the second set, and fuck, man. I mean, the seatbelt kept her alive, but I remember it. I got pulled out of school. A lot of hip, punctured lung. I mean, I was young, but there was a lot of shit at that time. And I remember my dad telling me he doesn't remember how he got to the hospital. He drove himself there, but he doesn't remember doing it because he said he was in shock. He kind of, I guess, blacked out, which is another scary thing in itself. So I definitely can relate and stand by that. But please, ride with someone, don't drive drowsy, and buckle up. So I think that's a good message to pass out there, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
On the better things, though, you have on January 22nd, we got an event. Believe it's is it the CCW Stampede? Is it a CCW
Yes,
show? Yeah.
CCW Stampede 31, January 22nd at the Eagleview Academy in Jacksonville, Florida.
Take us through how you gonna prepare for that. What's the first thing you're gonna do?
Well, the first thing I do for any show, I find out what the match cards are.
Okay.
So I set up my cards. I also do commentary.
Yep.
So I also have to prepare my notes for that. And I usually kind of like cramming before a test. I usually wait 1 or 2 nights before. The whole card isn't set yet. But you just get all my information right. It's like preparing for a test. I mean, it's kind of routine for me at this point. But you want to make sure you have all the weights of the wrestlers right. You want to make sure you know who your champions are. I don't want to record any information because as a commentator, my partner Jimmy Rosendorf handles most of the play-by-play. It's more my job to and fill the fans in on the history between the wrestlers.
Nice.
Why is this happening to them at this point in time? Color commentary.
Right.
But the big selling point for Stampede 31 is we're having the 20 man over the top rope battle royal.
Ooh.
Where the winner will face defending world champion Darion Drummond in the main event of that show. Also, a match that was signed. If you've been, I don't know how well you know the product at the moment, but Chris Turner cost the New Breed Landon Cruz the World Heavyweight Championship. Landon Cruz won it for the third time way back at Wrestle Bash of last year. Turner comes in, gives him a pile driver, and then Cecil Andrews was able to cash in his rule of the ring policy and get the belt from Landon Cruz. So Landon Cruz is a little pissed off at Turncoat Turner, and our commissioner has signed the match made it official, and Landon Cruz has been a pretty nice guy. I've never really seen him show a lot of anger, but he is pissed.
I would be
Chris
too.
Turner, and I'm scared what he's going to do to that man.
Oh man, I don't want to be that guy. That's the last guy I want to be. Okay, so at Stampede, you as you said, color commentator, you're filling people in. I'm gonna pull the curtain back just a little, not much, because I like to keep it kayfabe. Do you prefer to know the outcomes, or would you prefer to be surprised?
To quote an old Burt Reynolds movie, "All dogs go to heaven, let me be surprised."
There you go. Does it make your announcing better when we get that true, honest, natural reaction?
Yes.
I agree.
Natural reactions are what you want. If it's forced, or if it's too forced or all that, people can tell.
Yeah.
We have wrestling fans are more informed and educated than they were in prior generations, and so yes, it can. Yes, you want as natural as you can possibly get in this business.
I agree. Donnie, I'm not going to ask you the typical question, where would you like to see yourself or what are your goals? I'm going to tell you where I see you. I see you, and I can almost see it already happening. I see you at MLW. I can see it.
That would be a dream gig. I'm a big fan of MLW, Major League Wrestling. I watched them on the Sunshine Network down here in Florida way back in 2003 during their first run. So I have a long history with MLW as a fan. I think they're about as close as you can get to a modern territory wrestling show. They put out a great product. I would be honored to be a part of what they do.
I agree. But
Reality of wrestling too.
Reality of wrestling, good one. It's a good one. Good job, Vanessa. I mean, obviously, the main promotions, everyone would love to do that. It's the vibe I get from him with his suits, his persona, the way he stretches things out. He's a showman. He's a friggin' showman, and he's major league. And that's where I see him. So we'll talk to Court Bauer. We'll get him on the line, and we'll do something for you. For sure.
Oh, thanks, man. I'd appreciate it. But, I mean, and by the same token, I'm proud to be a member of CCW. I mean, Dory trained me, but it was CCW that gave me my first shot.
Yeah.
They took a chance on me, and without them, none of this would have been possible. That's why I've been a loyal. I've tried to be a loyal employee. I mean, they've promoted me to commentator as well. Yeah, they let me. I host a show sometimes with Jimmy Rosendorf as needed. So, I'm really hoping this year that CCW, we take that next step. We get those larger venues, we get those bigger crowds because we have the talent.
Yeah.
I see it happening, and I really hope it does, and I hope to be along for the ride. And who knows? With everything that we've got going on, I hope one day that we see someone on the CCW roster, be for one of the big two, whether it be on WWE or AEW. I really think CCW could get there at some point. Be that in between promotion, be that springboard to going on to like the big leagues.
If you had to pick, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. If you had to pick one of the wrestlers on the CCW roster right now to take that springboard leap, and see him on one of the main 2 or 3, whatever. Who would it be?
There are several that come to mind. I mentioned him early. Landon Cruz is ready. Landon Cruz is a 3-time CCW World Heavyweight Champion, former Southern States Champion. Landon Cruz has climbed just about every mountain that you can climb here in CCW. Landon Cruz is ready. He has business to finish with Chris Turner, but I could easily see Landon Cruz moving on to the next level. The Southern States Champion, the Machine Bryce Maddox.
Oh,
phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
The whole point of holding the Southern States title is defending that title, racking up wins, and then getting a shot for the World Heavyweight Championship. I see great things for him. Cobra Singh, you might not like his methods, but I could see him making it to the next level. And least I forget, the Alaskan Titan, the Ice Road Titan, Colossal Cody Knight, stands 6'7", has one of the longest win streaks in CCW history, questing for the World Heavyweight Championship right now. I could see him at the next level. I'm sure somehow, some way, Cole Bohannon might could talk his way into in the way up there sometime. So those guys definitely.
Yeah.
I could see making the next step. And then we've got a lot of guys in training right now that I could see making that next step. And I hope one day to see that. I'd love to see them walking out and maybe, in their entrance gear, they have a CCW shirt on. But, it all starts with us. Right. And I hope one day, obviously I hope to make it myself, but one day I hope to see one of the wrestlers that I've introduced here in CCW, their name in the bright lights on a big poster, and I can point and say, I helped make that just a little bit.
I put that guy over.
Yeah. So, that I know that's a long-winded.
Yeah.
I know that's long-winded, but yeah, that's what I see. That's what I see.
Well, Donnie, what we do at the end of every show, and first of all, thanks for joining us tonight. You look phenomenal.
Thank you for having me.
You're definitely classing up the joint. What we do at the end of every show is I'm going to give you the mic now. You can put yourself over, put CCW. You can let us know where to find you. You can talk. You can say anything you want, Donnie. I'm not going to interrupt. The floor is yours.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. Do not forget, January 22nd at the Eagle View Academy in Jacksonville, Florida, Stampede 31 is going downtown. You can call us for your tickets. Be sure to check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Pitchman. A big thank you to the Putting Over podcast for having me over here as a guest and getting to do what I do. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Donnie, you're welcome back anytime. You got a great voice, great mind, and obviously a great look. Thanks for giving us your time tonight, and have a great
thank
night.
you, man.
Yeah, have a great night for sure.
All right, you too.
Peace.